Let's go into the next panel. I will take over from Nigel Lowry, who unfortunately is still on the way. He's trying to find a way to arrive here. So I will moderate the next panel. It's on technical management and fleet operations. What's next? Mark, please join us. Mr. Sarris, Sunil, and Dimitris. So we had the ship owner panel before. They painted the landscape of the industry. Now we have with us, we're going into the ship management side. And we have with us two third-party managers, Columbia and FML Fleet Management. And we also have two in-house owners who are doing their own management, Kyklades and Mr. Sarris of Enterprise Shipping and Trading. So I would welcome them to the panel. Thank you for being with us. If I may start asking each one of you to briefly describe your operation so that we know exactly what you're dealing with. So Mark, maybe I can start with you.
Good morning, everybody. I think they've set the temperature in this room deliberately very cold, so we all stay very attentive. My name's Mark O'Neill. I'm CEO of Columbia Shipmanagement. We have approximately 370 vessels under management across all vessel types and across all industry sectors, based in Singapore, Germany and in Cyprus. The main office, the largest office is in Cyprus, but really focusing now, the key for us is optimization. We think that's the direction of this industry, and that's the reference earlier on to the performance optimization control room. We think that's the differentiator.
Hello everybody, good morning. My name is George Sarris. Before I start, I would like to thank Capital Link for the kind invitation. I'm the President and Managing Director of Enterprise Shipping and Trading. We are owning and managing 40 vessels, dry cargo and tankers. And our company has been, throughout the years, since 1974, striving for excellence. And we have managed to reach that excellence, and we're seeking even more. We hope that through these forums, we can have a better and clearer idea, as the market that we are in right now is a very uncertain one, and owners are not sure of what to do and which way to go. So I hope that today we will get a bit wiser on this section. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunil Kapoor. I'm a director located in Cyprus. I represent Fleet Management, and it's one of the third largest ship management company. We operate more than 550 ships of all kinds. Our head office is in Hong Kong, with offices located in Singapore, Cyprus, London, and all parts of the country. And today we will be talking about the operational excellence, how to adopt to the new technology, how to move forward and provide the best services in this tough market. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the organizers for inviting me. I'm the CEO. My name is Dimitris Patrikios. I'm the CEO of Kyklades Maritime. The company manages the fleet mainly of the Alafouzos family, and is a very traditional company, going back to more than 30 years owning and managing ships. The challenge for us this year is that we have a big expansion of the fleet. We mainly manage crude carriers, and we go from 11 ships, Suezmaxes and Aframaxes, to take delivery of 8 VLCCs within 1 year and 6 Suezmaxes next year. So the challenge for us, and discussing this operational excellence, as mentioned before, is how to adapt our organization to the challenges of this big expansion of the fleet. Thank you.
So we have with us, which I find very interesting, as I mentioned before, we have 2 very large third-party managers and 2 very large in-house owners, operators. So I would like to ask you, each one of you, what do you consider to be the major challenges you're facing today? I'm curious to see if the challenges and risks that you are having as a third-party manager are different than those that you have as an in-house owner-manager, because at the end of the day, both of you are striving for operational excellence. So maybe, Mark, I can start with you and ask, what are the major challenges and risks that you're facing today as a third-party manager managing on behalf of many owners?
I think as a third-party manager, the challenges are persuading the marketplace, and there is no tougher marketplace than the Greek market, that we as third-party managers are relevant to the business and compelling to the business, that you need us. I spent 25 years as a lawyer working in and with the Greek market. Nobody does shipping better than the Greeks. And that's a great challenge for us, because we have to look at what the market wants and what the market needs. We heard on the last panel that the optimum vessel size for efficiencies between 15 and 50 vessels. That's undoubtedly true. We have 370 vessels under management, and we don't claim or try to provide the same service to each of our clients. We have to provide a tailored, optimized service to each of those clients, particular to those clients. We've seen from some of our competitors out there who perhaps have had their focus and their target on other objectives, perhaps a sale or private or IPO or whatever, that they take their eye off the ball. We are simple service providers, and I think the challenge is to remind ourselves of that. Same way when I was a lawyer, I was just a lawyer servicing the client. Here in this industry, we have to keep our eye very much on that ball. What does the individual client want, and what can we give? And if we take the Greek market, how can we best serve Greeks who for hundreds, thousands of years have been operating very, very, very successfully in this business. So we see the challenge really in harnessing our size, the economies of scale that we can bring to the market on procurement, on technology, on crewing, etc., into the clients and tailoring that service. Then optimization. We believe that if we can make our clients' vessels more attractive to their ultimate clients, that's a win-win for everybody. And that's why we have spent a lot of time, effort and money in developing this performance optimization control room, which leads to radical optimized savings. Absolutely incredible what can be achieved through harnessing this technology. And this technology is not just available for our managed clients, it's available to anybody who wants to use our control room. It's there, come and use it, be a client of the control room, and really see how your business model can change massively and make your vessels even more attractive to the marketplace. So please speak to us if that's right. And then fundamentally, we're a great believer in people. You know, there's a lot of talk about technology, there's a lot of talk about digitalization. We're getting into the realms of the Y2K, and those of you old enough to remember will realize that the turn of the new century, we all thought our computers were going to crash. There is this hype around that you have to digitalize or die, and you have to digitalize everything. This is rubbish. The most important commodity we have, and it's interesting that the owners mentioned it on the last panel, is our people. That's our people in the offices, that's our people on board our vessels, and it's the clients and the relationships we have. If we focus on our people, focus on training, which we're spending huge amounts on, again, we can become relevant and compelling to our clients because we can offer them something that they perhaps can't get anywhere else. So relevant and compelling, and become relevant and compelling to each of the individual clients in each of the markets is the key challenge for us.
So maybe I can continue with Sunil, so we can go with the third-party managers first and then go to the in-house management. By the way, I'd like to mention that the Tome Group is also a sponsor of this conference, and their CEO was supposed to be with us. Unfortunately, last moment he had to another urgent engagement. But we look forward, hopefully, to renewing our contact with Tome Group in Hong Kong on November 18, along with Fleet Management, of course, and Colombia. Sunil, if I can.
Yeah, thank you very much. It reminds me what Charles Darwin said some time back. It is not the strongest or the most smartest who will survive, but it is the most a person who can respond to the change, and a person who can take quick decisions and act accordingly is the one who will survive. And after a long time, I see so many changes taking place in shipping industry now with new technology, untried technology, new regulations. There's a requirement for a high level of professional and competent people to run the ships both at shore and on ships. So there is a lot of things which are coming up, and how to deal with these challenges are becoming a challenge itself for the various ship management or ship owning companies. So what we have done recently is to create a center of excellency, and that monitors all these activities, new requirements and upcoming negotiations and regulations which are coming out. A group of these hand-selected people are part of this center of excellency, and they are monitoring and discussing internally with various group heads, training centers, and technical managers. So this way, our response time is very quick, and the more we can respond and can act, the more we have control over our activities. So to keep our ship management company running and to provide the best services is to make sure that we are aware what's happening around and how to find the best solution, and to give the excellent service to our owners and customers.
Thank you. George, maybe we can go with you.
Well, as we know, Greek ship owners are very effective and very competitive, and they do so because they're running their companies more like families rather than business entities. This they have done over the years. They had, some of them, we had the luxury of building up a company and a culture in the company, a very strong culture in the company, that over the years have become a very solid platform on which we have built our structure, our in-house technical management company. This has created a very robust company that is flexible to take, of course, decisions, has a very large degree of authority in decision-making, especially for testing new technologies, because this is where we have an advantage in comparison with third-party management. We can decide, and we can be very swift in our decisions, and we can try new technologies without having to consult anybody, but just, discuss it amongst ourselves. Sometimes we have to make hard decisions, and finally, at the end of the day, we strive for excellence. Now, when we reach that peak, then in an in-house technical management, it's not enough. We cannot sit back and enjoy. Reaching that peak, we've reached the peak, and we know that the next step is just the decline. So when we're up there, we need to think of something, we need to innovate in order to shoot up and reach for another goal, another another target which is much higher than the one that we have already achieved. The in-house management and, of course, the Greek ship owner is never satisfied. And this is what makes him special, in my opinion. High maintenance standards reflect positively, very positively, in the in-house management, and this because that reflects directly to our assets and their values, of course. Finally, the owner is more inclined and more free to invest in his own company, invest in many ways, and of course this improves the standards, this makes him different, and of course very, very highly competitive in the international market. Thank you.
Dimitri?
Yes, regarding your question, what are the challenges we face as a family ship management company? The family companies, the family ship management companies have different expertise in different markets. We run tankers, and the tankers, they require different types of quality perception and safety perception. Regarding the challenges, the first challenge is how to adapt to the regulations. It was mentioned in the previous panel a lot of times about regulation, that we're over-regulated. I will simply say we are regulated. There is no industry without regulations. And I would say the banking sector, if we take, is over-regulated nowadays. And instead, we must not see in the past, but we must realize what is the future now and how the future will evolve from the present position. So we have the regulations. Always we will have regulations. The issue is how to adapt our systems, our management systems, our minds, and make our people understand what's the necessities of the future. I remember in 1996 when the ISM was introduced, everybody was saying that the Greek shipping community will face tremendous problems. We never faced tremendous problems because we adapted. The human species adapt themselves. And as you said, that Darwin, we live in a continuously adapted environment. So the first regulations, not only regulations from the external entities, international regulations, but as a tanker operators, we face the requirements of the charterers. And we face, which are very strict regulations, strict requirements, and we must adapt to these requirements if we want to have profits, if we want to survive and we want to sustain our operations. Second, technology. Now we are in a structural transition in technology. It reminds me the analogies in the late 80s, beginning of 90s, when all the ship management companies introduced the PC, the computer. Before that, we had the telexes for the exchanging information. And we had the forms, the written forms, to find out what was happening on the vessel. Now, we have a new wave of changes. But the problem with the new wave of changes is that we see a lot of promises. Every week, one company will knock the door and will say that we provide these fancy things about information technology, artificial intelligence, and many, many things. We have data. We have many, many data. But data, without make the data information and information to take decisions, are rubbish. So the challenge nowadays is how to use the technology in the proper way, to have the proper people in our company, in our management system, to understand the technology and know how to implement the technology. We will not implement promises. We want something very solid. And the third one, the challenge is the human factor. The human factor, for me, is the most important in all organizations, the ship management, and the human factor not only on board the vessels, but the human factor in the office. We want professionals, we want people to understand, we want people to see not only the present, but we want to see the future as well, and also to have the proper professionals and well-qualified and well-trained seafarers on board. Without having the proper people, we cannot operate our assets, and we cannot satisfy our principals who invest their money to buy very expensive assets, and we are responsible to have these expensive assets running up every day properly and earn revenues for the principals. These are the challenges. And the last one is, one big change that we have today from the past is that we live in a period of transparency. And transparency brings everything into the light. And the problem is that many people in the offices we have, because they have the experiences of the past, they consider that some cutting corners or doing some things in a way that was allowed in the past cannot be done in the future. We must adapt ourselves also in the present era of transparency. We are in front of a monitor all the time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a different question to ask to George and Dimitris, and then a different one for Sunil and Mark. When we're dealing with the economies of scale, obviously economies of scale have to do with size. So I understand if you're running 300-400 ships, it is probably easier to achieve those economies of scale. So Dimitri and George, when you are dealing with your in-house fleets, do you have how are you going after achieving maximum economies of scale and efficiency for your own operations? If I can start with George.
Well, I was fortunate because when I joined our company, we had 4 ships and we went up to 97. So I've been through all these change. I've been running 97 ships, so you understand that I had the opportunity to negotiate, and I had the ability to manage some deals with individuals because of the number of vessels that we had. This, fortunately, has been following us until now, where we have now 40 ships. And I've had no difficulty, and of course I'm in this market for more than 40 years, so I have a reputation regarding these economies of scale. So this is, I think that this is not easy for other companies, for smaller companies. They have to struggle because the numbers are different. But there are ways to deal with this. Fortunately, we don't have to employ these ways, but I'm sure that if a company with a smaller company needs to get better prices, then they join forces through certain channels, and of course they can achieve that.
Thank you. Dimitri?
Yes, economies of scale is an economic term and very relative. When we want to speak about economies of scale on financing, you need a mass of assets, and you need, of course, something that will give you the power to have the economies of scale. If we are talking about the ship management, the economies of scale is very relative. If we take, let's say, the management expenses, of course, if we have, let's say, the colleagues here, the speakers, they have 1,000 vessels. Of course, they have economies of scale with the people they have in their offices. In our office, in the other offices, the family business offices, the economies of scale cannot be measured that way for the management fees. Regarding the other variable costs for running the ships, we benchmark ourselves. There are benchmarking tools. We can see how we move against the other companies, and then we try to adapt ourselves. The biggest part of of the running a ship is the crew. And this is a strategic decision, what kind of crew you are going to have. This will create different structures. So the economies of scale for me is very relative. For the family business, the 30 ships is a number that can be controlled in the safe management system very efficiently. Above that, you need different structure. On the financing, you need power, you need mass, and you need good name.
Thank you. So for Sunil and Mark, and I'll start with Sunil, obviously when you're dealing with a very large fleet, we can understand how you achieve economies of scale. But can you tell us now from your end how you achieve consistent quality given exactly the size of your operations? So maybe...
Well, I think economies of scale, anybody who argues that a smaller number of vessels can achieve the same economies of scale as a larger number of vessels, it's just not a sustainable argument. It's the graph continues to go up according to the number of vessels. But Nicholas, you make the point, that doesn't mean that the service being delivered is necessarily also the quality is going up. And you know, it's all about the quality of the service. And as I said again, you know, from what I said at the beginning, our challenge as a third-party manager is not to do it better than these guys on my left. We can't expect to do it better. It's in your DNA. It's in the Greeks' DNA, shipping. But we have to do it as well, and then we have to harness everything we can bring to the party, the economies of scale, the procurement platforms that we have, the optimization ability through the control room and other mechanisms. So we're not trying to do it better, but economies of scale must be relevant. Then there's the quality, and you're seeing now, unfortunately, certainly in the third-party ship management sector, a polarization between those ship managers that hold on to the quality space and will not go down because, frankly, that affects safety and that affects the quality of the service, and those that will, frankly, do it for anything, and we'll see what happens further down the line once the contract has been landed. Quality is absolutely essential, and as far as Colombia is concerned, the day we take our eye off that quality is the day that the business model becomes unsustainable, and owners will quite rightly say we're taking it back in-house and we're doing it ourselves. We have to operate and think like an owner, and because we have 40 or 50 owners who are clients, we have to think like 40 or 50 different owners and tailor the service precisely to what they want, and that gives the quality. We have to do it like an owner. We have to perform this service like an owner. But quality, Nicholas, you're absolutely right. Quality is the differentiator, and it's certainly something, as far as our organization is massively important.
Thank you. Sunil?
Yeah, I fully agree with Mark. Economies of scale is important when you are making a budget initially. Everybody wants to see the bottom line, but it is not the only thing when we are running ships. And when we are running 550 ships, we are looking at operational excellence. We are looking at how to minimize wastage. So this wastage will also improve the bottom line. We are also looking at how best to deal the jobs where we should have some standards of working and operational. So owners at the end of the day, they are willing to see, they may have a 5% additional cost, but they don't want the ships to have off-hire, or they don't want a breakdown or bad name or everything. So as a third-party manager, our constant effort is also, one of them is to keep the cost down, but is also to provide the best services. And then we have various kind of owners, so then we have to provide the customized service to each and every kind of owner. So there we have to continue working in order to keep the ships in the good condition. In today's world, you cannot run a ship, especially anywhere in the world, in a shabby condition where we have port state control, detentions, other things. So even a small mistake can cause you more damage than just trying to create and bringing down the cost of supplying stores and spares. So I think operational excellence at the bottom line is more important. Standards, safety systems, and how you operate the ship, and how trustfully you are communicating with the owners.
Thank you.
Can I just add to that too? The sooner we get rid of this term third-party management, the better, frankly. I hate it. It suggests that there is some form of abrogation of responsibility from the owner to a third party who then runs the ships, technically crewing, etc., operationally for that owner. That's not the way of the real world. It should be second party management. It should be partnership. It should be joint venture. There are a multitude of different forms which lend themselves to the modern shipping space, much more than this term third-party manager. And if you want quality, the best way to bring quality in is to bring owners' expertise into your organization, bring their DNA in, so it's a real partnership. Have owners' representatives sitting with you. That gives the transparency that was talked about earlier on this panel. It gives the assurance of quality. It brings owners' DNA, your DNA into the operation. So I think the sooner we get rid of third-party management, call it second-party management, or call it partnership or joint venture or cooperation, whatever we want to call it, the better, and that will assure quality.
So Mark opened the window to the next question I wanted to ask, actually, to Dimitri and to George. Given the quality and efficiency of your operations, would you consider managing ships for other parties?
Well, yes, we would consider under certain circumstances. We have done that in the past. We've had, this exercise done with our partners in American Eagle Tankers, where we decided to build 4 vessels together for Aframaxes. We've ended up managing them. They were chartering them, and finally we decided to split to see how we do each one of them, benchmarking. And it was really, and I'm very happy to say that we got the vessels back again because we were much, much, much cheaper, and also the quality of our ships were much higher than the one of our partners. I do agree with Mark. Quality is of essence. It's a must. Unless you have quality all over your setup, you cannot compete nowadays. Fortunately, our company has seen this back in 1993, and we were the first ones that had been awarded with a quality certificate in Greece. At that time, we were operating reefer vessels. Now, on quality, I would also like to add ethics, because this is also very, very essential. And I think if a company runs with quality and ethics, it makes a very, very big difference. Thank you.
I have no experience working with ship managers. I know many of them. I respect the companies, and from my previous assignments, we had in-house management. But the decision to go to a third-party or second-party managers depends on what kind of vessels you have, whether you have the expertise, what is your business model, what are your charterers, how you want to work your vessels. Last week, I was in a lunch with a big charterer, and the charterer told me that we like this family type business you have, because you can handle all the things because you have the owner next to you, and you solve the problems immediately, and we are satisfied with this. This doesn't mean that we cannot find ship managers to work in the same way. If I had, let's say, if we invest in LNG, we don't have the expertise. And by this way, we may go to a third-party manager who has the expertise on LNG in order to run the vessels. For the bulk carriers, we may consider it.
Thank you.
This is my point.
Thank you. So we are about to run out of time. I'd like to conclude with one question to Sunil and Mark. I would be grateful for a brief answer. Looking at third-party I don't know, as Mark said, we have to have a better term for that, but looking at the third-party manager industry, is there consolidation? Are there size considerations? You have the larger companies and you have the smaller companies. So how is the competitive landscape forming in your industry?
Look, we're all seeing the troubles that perhaps the largest of the ship managers is having, not just in this market, but in other markets. I think it doesn't matter about the size, and the smaller, just as in the owner-operator market, smaller companies can do things just as well as the larger companies, subject to the economies of scale and investment possibilities, etc. The important thing is to keep the focus, and keep the focus on the fact that we are mere service providers. We're managers to many of you owners out there. If you keep that focus, and you focus on quality, and you focus on people, and you harness that with technology and all of the other investment opportunities that we have, then you're going to succeed. Why wouldn't you succeed? And consolidation is not necessary. You don't need to be the biggest to be the best. But you do need this focus, and you do need to remember the very, very basics, that we're here to provide management services, and we are managers of vessels, and we have to harness you, the clients, to manage effectively.
Thank you. Sunil?
I just want to, even this third-party ship management, so some of the owners, they call us as the extension of owner's office. So I just wanted to add that. I fully agree that many people use third-party ship management as something, a derogatory word. So coming back, I agree, when I joined fleet management, we were thinking of a size of 25 to 30 ships. And then from that level, now we are about 550 ships. But the whole question is also not of the size, but the services we have to provide now, because many owners are looking that if they give a ship, then the company, like big companies, can be able to provide the various services at one shop. You know, they can be able to run from a bulk carrier to LNG or new technology. They will be able to provide services to put scrubber, things like that. So we also have to evolve, and we have to also provide the services. But the bottom line is focus on quality, focus on integrity, transparency, and how we can provide better services at all times. And if we have good systems, good people to run this, we can continue growth. Otherwise, like any other big company, it can collapse, and then it will just finish. So we have to continue putting the focus on what we are supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We run out of time. It was a very interesting panel. Thank you to all four of you for a great discussion. Let's have a picture taken, and we'll go to the next panel.